Hi everyone, this is Revolution Ricky here in my house and in my office at Casa de Revolution. Here to do another unboxing, or should I say an unwrapping video. I just got that bad boy and delivered to me from Amazon Prime using what's left of my rewards, and I'm going to open it up and show you all what I got. But before I do, if you would please hit like and subscribe to my channel, I would greatly appreciate it. Well, without further ado, let's open this bad boy up. I already know what it is. It's part of the what I call the Sun Record years. There's a series of movies out. Well, not a series. There's like 3 movies that were in the movie theaters. And I guess what you could say that this is the pilot that started that theatrical movie theme. A few years ago we had Elvis, that movie that won all those awards in 2022, and it's a great movie. Tom Hanks playing Colonel Tom Parker. Then you had Walk the Line with Joaquin Phoenix and Reese Witherspoon. I'm not very big on Reese Witherspoon. She can sing, but that movie, Walk the Line, was a very good movie. And you have this one, the pilot that started the series, out of the big 3. In fact, to me, it was the first movie. I already know what it is. So, this is a return to format somewhat from prior videos of the Sun Records. I really love Sun Records. I went to Memphis about in 1998 with my family, and we had a good old time. Unfortunately, my grandma couldn't do much because of her knees and her back, and I've been wanting to go back ever since. But I think more or less I want to go to Sun Records than I do Graceland, because, out of that little small building in Memphis, Tennessee, you had a plethora of great music come out of it. You had country, you had gospel, you had rhythm and blues, you had rock and roll, rockabilly. All that type of music came out of that little recording studio in Memphis, Tennessee, which I would have loved to have just went in, but we didn't go. Right now when I went, it's still a recording studio. You could probably go in there and pay a few dollars and get a cassette tape of you singing karaoke. Anybody could have done that, but me now, I would love to have just went and had a tour of it to see where a plethora of great music was. From the Carl Perkins, Elvis Presley, the Prisoners, with their songs, like Walking in the Rain and Softly and Tenderly. All that music just came out of that little recording studio, and at the helm was Sam Phillips. I mean, this is going a little sidetrack, but I will say, this was the movie that started that series of movies, Walk the Line and Elvis. I really did love this movie. Despite his politics, everybody knows what political party I go for, and it ain't the current one. I keep my channel, my YouTube channel, political free. I voice my opinions, and that's it. Without that being said, I think he did a great job. Kind of, I don't know. A real Jerry Lee Lewis movie would have probably been. Well, I just gave that plot away. Anyway, years ago there was a TV series, a little mini series called Sun Records. I wish they would have done more. and had it go for a little bit more, but it only was released for like 8 episodes, and then it quit. I wish it would have segued into more artists that went through the door, because you had Roy Orbison, you had all these other artists like the Gentrys, yeah, the same Gentrys that Jimmy Hart, the wrestling manager, was part of. That's how he got his start. You had all these other rock groups, even U2, even the Class of '55, which was Roy Orbison, Carl Perkins, Johnny Cash, and Jerry Lee Lewis doing that Class of '55 album. You had them all still record at that little studio in Memphis, where it all began. Where heavy metal would begin. Without that little studio, you wouldn't have the music of today. So here we go. I'll open her up. Live TV. Got me a break. All right. Here we go. And it is Great Balls of Fire. I love this movie. I saw it years ago when I was 19 years old, on my birthday. There was a little dollar theater in Mobile, where I live, and I had loved this movie. My mother years ago for Christmas got me the video cassette of it, which I still have. It's somewhere around here, and got me a little original pressing of Whole Lot of Shaking Going On from Jerry Lee Lewis. And he was the last one standing for a while. I mean, unfortunately, he passed away some years ago. And it was a sad, but I've always, besides his politics, I mean, I really did like him playing Jerry Lee Lewis. And this is just a fun movie. I mean, he kind of acted like a moron in it, but you know what? I think Jerry Lee Lewis was, besides that, a great entertainer. He was still playing music up until the day he passed. Played, he segued into all of it. He segued into rock and roll, rockabilly, rock and roll, country, rhythm and blues, gospel. I mean, he has, his cousins were Jimmy Swaggart, the televangelist. Different story. I don't like many televangelists at all, because I think they're all greedy, and I have my religious views and my religious leanings and what church I'm a member of. I never made that a secret. But yes, I do believe in God. I do believe in Jesus Christ. Never made that a secret. I really love this movie, and it's the pilot that started the series with, you had Elvis, you had this movie first, then Walk the Line, then Great Balls of Fire, and not to mention the TV stuff, documentaries, which all of it is pretty much a done deal with this one. I mean, I wish they would make a Roy Orbison movie. That would be interesting to see his early years and how he was, did everything. I think that Roy Orbison's early years was fantastic. And one thing I've always said is Roy Orbison and Friends, A Black and White Night was one of the best concert films I've ever seen. It was quiet, intimate. It was just him with a bunch of friends. It had Bruce Springsteen, Elvis Costello. It had Jennifer Warren's singing backup. Had all these interesting players in the film playing with Roy Orbison. And singing with him. And Roy Orbison had a beautiful voice anyway, and Elvis loved Roy Orbison. Thought he was the best singer he ever heard. Then you have Carl Perkins. Carl Perkins is kind of like a small footnote to it, but he released a lot of music back in the day. He released so much. In fact, Blue Suede Shoes, Elvis covered it. Carl made it big, and Elvis made it bigger because he did that Blue Suede Shoes. I don't think there was any animosity, but I do like this biopic. It's a hit and miss with everybody. The soundtrack is cool. I like the soundtrack. It's updated versions of Jerry Lee Lewis classics. It's nothing special, just a regular DVD. I don't even think it has the music video for Great Balls of Fire on it, but it probably would have the probably would have it. I'm not real 100% sure. I don't know what is on here as far as special features. Probably just the film. And, it has an all-star cast, Dennis Quaid, Winona Ryder, who I had a big crush on back in the day. I don't think nobody, and who was in Stranger Things. It had Alec Baldwin from The Shadow, Beetlejuice, who starred with Winona Ryder in it. Had John Doe, who was the bartender in Roadhouse with Patrick Swayze, and he was in a punk band called X. And he also did another movie that I really like called Pure Country with George Strait. Not a big country music fan, so to speak, but I do like a little bit of, there's exceptions to the rule, like Patsy Cline. I do like the George Strait movie, Pure Country. And he's a musician anyway. He played bass in a punk rock band, and in fact, he was in the first movie Decline of Westerns. Tongue twister. Live TV. Give me a break. He was in the first Decline of Western Civilization movie, the first one, the punk years, so to speak, which had X, had all sorts of others. I mean, I didn't become a fan of those movies. I became a fan of the second movie, Decline of Western Civilization Part 2, the metal years, because back then I'm still into heavy metal rock with Kiss, Motley Crue, Ozzy, but you have to go back to the dance. You have to go back to where it all began, and the stuff that came out of the 50s with rockabilly, R&B, that stuff is so strong. And rhythm and blues, and before that, even blues music of the 1930s with Robert Johnson, James Patton. James Cotton, James Patton. I'm terrible with names. And then you had all sorts of other stuff like Hank Snow with country music. He's on the tip of my tongue. Oh God. Ernest Tubb. With his music, because he was a great musician. Always got Ernest Tubb and Hank Snow a little bit mixed up, but I like both of them. In their music genres, because some people like them. And their duets with Loretta Lynn, with Patsy Cline. Patsy Cline, long story, I think I mentioned it in prior videos about riding around on a long road trip to Tennessee to see my family and going in style in my grandmother's Cadillac. Woman loved to ride in style, and she only had like a few cassettes in the car, and they were all country music, except for Lynyrd Skynyrd. I mean, Lynyrd Skynyrd was more or less Southern rock, but she only had a couple of cassettes, and I was not going to play George Jones. So Patsy Cline won out, kind of with fate, and I've been a Patsy Cline fan ever since. But it's getting a little off subject, but I would highly recommend y'all getting this movie, as well as the Elvis movie and the Walk the Line movie with Joaquin Phoenix and Reese Witherspoon. This is the pilot that started the series. And, well, I'm going to get off here. Maybe go watch this movie and relax a little bit. I'll be on next week. I'm going to take a little break from doing the scavenger hunts, and I will be on, or whenever I feel like it. I mean, I'm just doing these movies as these videos, these videos as a labor of love. What? Until then, this is Revolution Ricky signing off. Keep spinning that vinyl and the CDs, and keep playing movies on DVDs, DVD, and Blu-ray players. And I shall see you all again in the next video. Peace.